Let me introduce myself. Commander Elena Reyes, former tactical officer aboard the UES Retribution, veteran of what history books now call the Second Contact War. Though if you ask me, calling it a war is like calling a supernova a campfire. I'm recording this account because apparently future generations need to understand our mistakes. Mistakes. That's rich coming from the bureaucrats who've never had to make the calls we did. Humanity had been stretching its fingers across the cosmos for nearly a century when this all went down. We'd established colonies on 17 exoplanets, with mining operations on another 24 moons and asteroids. The politicians called it humanity's greatest achievement. The corporations called it expanding market opportunities. The rest of us called it what it was, desperate necessity after we'd squeezed Earth nearly dry. New Horizon was our pride and joy though. Third colony established, but the first one that actually looked like somewhere you'd want to live. Kepler 219c, beautiful blue-green marble with gravity at 1.1 Earth standard. Breathable atmosphere after minimal terraforming. They had farms, universities, 3 major cities. Governor Lucia Chen had just announced their population had hit 80,000. I remember laughing when I got that news. My old friend Dr. Marcus Chen, no relation to the governor, had been complaining about the place getting too crowded when it hit 50,000. Too many humans, he'd told me during our last call. I came to the stars for a bit of quiet. Ironic, isn't it? I sometimes wonder if he'd appreciate the cosmic joke. 80,000 humans on New Horizon, and then suddenly, none. Turns out, we weren't the only ones watching that colony grow. I was stationed on Luna Command when the first distress signal came through. Just finishing up my shift, looking forward to synthetic whiskey and whatever passed for entertainment in the officers' lounge that night. The comms officer's face went white as paper. Never a good sign, that. Commander Reyes, she said, voice shaking. Priority transmission from New Horizon. They're under attack. The recording was fragmented, corrupted by what we'd later learn was some kind of quantum interference tech. Governor Chen's face, usually so composed, looked like she'd seen death itself. Which, fair enough, she had. Unknown vessels. Atmospheric entry. Energy weapons unlike anything. Oh God, they're targeting residential sectors first. Then static. Then screaming. You know what's worse than hearing 80,000 people die? Hearing the moment when thousands of screams suddenly become hundreds. Then dozens. Then silence. By the time the Security Council assembled, we had satellite imagery. Well, imagery is generous. More like abstract art painted in fire and rubble. The colony's defense grid hadn't even slowed them down. Their ships, 7 of them, sleek things like obsidian arrowheads, had methodically reduced New Horizon to atoms. The Quevexians, Admiral Okafor announced to the room, advanced civilization, observing humanity for decades. We've had limited diplomatic contact through proxies. I laughed at that. Couldn't help it. Limited diplomatic contact. They just erased 80,000 people. The room went silent. I remember thinking about Marcus. Last message I got from him was complaining about some fungal samples he was studying. These spores are stubborn little bastards, he'd written. Remind me of you, Elena. The Quevexian ships left behind a transmission. Their first direct communication with humanity. Our linguists translated it within hours. The infection on Kepler 219c has been cauterized. This world falls within Quevexian sacred space. Your biological contaminants violated ancient covenant. Let this serve as warning against further desecration. That's what we were to them. An infection. Contaminants. They had claimed the planet millennia before we arrived, though they'd never settled it. Their religion considered it part of some cosmic temple or something, and we were vermin who'd wandered in. The Security Council argued for hours about proportional response, diplomatic channels, possible misunderstandings. Misunderstandings. I wanted to scream. They had precision-targeted population centers. They could have destroyed infrastructure, could have demanded evacuation. Instead, they specifically chose to eliminate every human life. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was extermination, and humanity had never taken extinction lying down. The Emergency Security Council meeting on Earth was everything you'd expect from politicians facing extinction: panicked, posturing, and painfully slow. I was patched in from Luna, watching faces around that polished black table cycle through fear, anger, and my personal favorite, opportunism. "We need to understand their culture before responding," said Ambassador Wei, straightening his immaculate collar while New Horizons' ashes were still cooling. "I swear some diplomats would try negotiating with a supernova." General Harrington pounded the table. "Immediate military response. Full mobilization." I laughed out loud at that one, earning glares through the video feed. "With what fleet, General?" "Our navy consists of 12 combat-capable vessels. The Quevexians have technology that turned our colony to dust in hours." "Commander Reyes is correct," said a new voice. "Enter Admiral Victor Okafor." Black man, silver hair, eyes that had seen too much in the Belt Wars. The only one in the room who seemed neither panicked nor performing. "Our conventional response would be insufficient," he continued. "However, proportional response remains our obligation. 80,000 lives demand answer." That's when Dr. Isabel Nakamura stepped forward. Small Japanese woman, lab coat despite the formal setting. The kind of quietly terrifying brilliance that makes soldiers nervous. "There is another option," she said, activating a holographic display. "Project Prometheus." The room went silent as she described a weapon system so classified I'd never heard whispers of it despite my clearance. Something about stellar manipulation, targeted nova induction, theoretical physics that made my head spin. "You've built a star killer," President Alvarez whispered. "We've built a deterrent," Nakamura corrected. "One that was never meant to be used." The debate exploded. Half the room wanted to try communication again. The other half was already calculating how many Quevexian lives would equal 80,000 humans. I watched Okafor's face. He wasn't arguing. Just watching Nakamura's simulations with the expression of someone weighing souls. "If we do this," he finally said, silencing the room, "we cross a line. Become something else in the galaxy's eyes." Ambassador Wei leaned forward. "We send a message that humanity is not to be trifled with." "No," Okafor replied quietly. "We send a message that we're capable of the same atrocity visited upon us." His eyes found mine through the video feed. "Commander Reyes, you've lost someone on New Horizon, yes?" I thought of Marcus. "Yes, sir." "Then prepare for deployment. You're my tactical officer for Operation Pyrrhic Victory." The UES Retribution wasn't just humanity's most advanced warship, it was our Hail Mary pass wrapped in titanium and desperation. Sleek, black and silent as death. Poetic, considering its mission. I reported for duty 3 days after the Security Council meeting, still not entirely convinced we weren't all walking into a glorified suicide mission. "Welcome aboard, Commander Reyes." Captain Diallo greeted me at the airlock. Her handshake was firm. Her eyes haunted. "Wish it were under better circumstances." "Don't we all?" I laughed. The sound hollow even to my own ears. "So we're really doing this, taking on an alien civilization with one ship carrying humanity's darkest creation," she corrected. "Plus the finest collection of lunatics and revenge seekers the military could assemble on short notice." She wasn't wrong. The crew manifest read like a who's who of people with nothing left to lose. Lieutenant Rivera, whose entire family had been on New Horizon. Dr. Williams, whose research partner had been studying alien microbes there. Sergeant Jackson, who'd lost both his brother and sister-in-law. Then there was the Special Forces team, 12 operators with the 1,000-yard stare and too many classified missions in their files. Major Kwan led them, a woman who said maybe 10 words my entire time aboard, each one precise as a surgeon's cut. "We're humanity's vengeance," she told her team during briefing. "Nothing more, nothing less." I'd laughed at that too. Vengeance implies you've got a chance of winning. The journey to the Quevexian home system took 17 days in FTL, 17 days of drills, planning, and the kind of gallows humor that flourishes when everyone knows the odds. If we succeed, I remember telling Rivera while running simulations, we'll be remembered as either heroes or monsters. If we fail, well, at least the history books won't have to decide. Bold of you to assume there'll be history books, he'd replied with a grim smile. When we arrived at the outer boundary of the Quevixian system, reality hit harder than any training could prepare us for. Their home system was heavily defended, orbital platforms around every major world, patrols moving in complex patterns, and at the center their homeworld, Quevixia Prime, beautiful blue-white marble with 3 moons and billions of sentient beings who had no idea what was coming. Just like New Horizon, first contact with their defense forces came 8 hours after arrival. A patrol vessel detected our engine signature despite our stealth systems. Incoming transmission. Communications announced. Tension straining her voice. They're asking for identification. Captain Diallo looked at me. Options, Commander. I pulled up tactical displays, running numbers that looked increasingly grim. We're outgunned about 50 to 1 if their fleet mobilizes. Conventional engagement is suicide. So much for the element of surprise, Doctor. Nakamura murmured from her station, hands already working through calculations for the weapon. Maybe not. Major Kwan spoke up from the back. Let me take my team down. We can deploy the package manually if needed. I looked at the tactical display again, at the billions of lives on that planet, at the faces of my crewmates who'd lost everyone on New Horizon. Humanity's first genocide. I said quietly. That's what we're discussing here. Second, Captain Diallo corrected, her voice steel. They committed the first. Before any of us could respond, the sensors blared warning. 3 Quevixian warships had altered course, accelerating toward our position. Decision time, I announced, somehow managing a bitter laugh. Do we start Armageddon now or wait until they're close enough to watch? Captain Diallo made the call. I wasn't sure I could have retreat. We slipped into the asteroid belt of the system's outer rim, powered down non-essentials, and watched the Quevixian warships search fruitlessly before returning to patrol routes. That was too close, Rivera muttered. That was illuminating, corrected Major Kwan. She'd captured data during our brief encounter, communications protocols, fleet positions, and most critically, an unsecured data packet from one of their vessels. Dr. Williams spent 12 hours decoding it. When she emerged from the lab, her face was ashen. You need to see this, she said. All of you. The data revealed the underlying structure of Quevixian society. Not just a unified civilization but a hierarchical theocracy divided into 3 major factions. The dominant one, the Celestial Purifiers, considered themselves cosmic gardeners, tending to star systems they'd marked millennia ago. They've been watching Earth for over 2,000 years, Williams explained, displaying star charts with ancient Quevixian markers. They catalogued us when we were still building pyramids. So why attack now? I asked. Why not when we first left Earth? Because of this. She pulled up records of an internal religious schism. The Purifier faction gained control of their High Council 3 of our years ago. They've been systematically cleansing what they call infested worlds across this sector. I laughed bitterly. We weren't special then. Just another bug to squash. Worse, Williams continued. The attack wasn't sanctioned by their full government. It was ordered specifically by the Purifier leader High Cleric Vexic Moran. He considers humans cosmic vermin spreading spiritual contamination. The room went silent as implications sank in. This wasn't a unified alien civilization defending its territory. This was a religious extremist faction committing genocide. There are moderate factions, Williams added quietly. The data shows internal protests against the attack on New Horizon. Fat lot of good that does our dead, Rivera snapped. I stared at the display showing billions of Quevixians going about their lives. Many, perhaps most, had nothing to do with the decision to eliminate New Horizon. Parents, children, scientists, artists, just people. Different physiology, different culture, but people. And we were planning to kill them all. I thought of Marcus then, of his last message about those stubborn fungal spores, of his laughter when I'd visited him on New Horizon 2 years prior. The universe is too vast for hatred, Elena, he'd said while showing me their observatory. That's what space teaches us. Now here I was, part of a mission to prove just how much hatred humanity could project across that vast universe. Captain, I said suddenly, if only one faction is responsible, could we target them specifically, spare the others? Captain Diallo's expression was unreadable. The Nova device doesn't discriminate, Commander. Neither did they, Major Kwan pointed out. New Horizon had children, infants. Admiral Okafor's words from the Security Council meeting echoed in my mind. We send a message that we're capable of the same atrocity visited upon us. Was that really our answer? To become the monsters who destroyed us? We need options, I said finally. Ways to make this proportional. Proportional? Rivera laughed harshly. What's proportional to 80,000 murders? I had no answer for that. None of us did. After 36 hours of debate that nearly tore the crew apart, Admiral Okafor arrived at a decision. The entire command staff was summoned to the secure briefing room, where Dr. Nakamura waited with her tablet and haunted eyes. The Nova device is humanity's darkest achievement, she began without preamble. Developed after the Belt Wars as the ultimate deterrent, it was never meant to be deployed. The lights dimmed as she activated a holographic projection. A sleek, surprisingly small cylinder marked with hazard symbols I'd never seen before. We call it Prometheus, she continued. Precisely regulated omnimatter energetic trigger for hyper-explosive unstable synthesis. Scientists and their acronyms. I laughed. Always trying to make doomsday sound poetic. Nakamura didn't smile. It's not a bomb, not exactly. It's more. A catalyst. The hologram expanded to show the device's inner workings, a quantum field generator surrounding what looked like a perfect vacuum chamber. The device creates a controlled zero-point energy cascade, she explained. In layman's terms, it temporarily suspends certain laws of physics within a defined radius, allowing matter-energy conversion beyond normal cosmic limits. So it's a fancy bomb, Rivera muttered. A star killer. Captain Diallo corrected quietly. Nakamura nodded. When deployed within a star's corona, it creates a reaction chain that exponentially accelerates fusion. The star essentially burns through its entire fuel supply in minutes rather than billions of years. The hologram shifted to show a simulation, a yellow star suddenly brightening, expanding, then collapsing before exploding in a supernova that consumed its entire system. Jesus, someone whispered. That's their home world. Rivera pointed to the third planet being consumed by fire in the simulation. Billions of lives. Billions of lives for 80,000. Major Kwan stated flatly. Seems disproportionate. I barked out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. That's putting it mildly. This isn't justice. It's extinction. There are 11 inhabited worlds in the Quavexian system, Dr. Williams added quietly. Population estimates range from 30 to 40 billion sentient beings. The room fell silent. The numbers were too vast to comprehend. Even those of us who'd lost people on New Horizon felt the weight of what we were considering. Can it be modified? I asked suddenly. Targeted to affect only part of the system, maybe just military installations. Nakamura shook her head. The Nova device is binary. Once initiated, the reaction consumes everything within the star's heliosphere. It's genocide. Medical Officer Chen said, speaking for the first time. Let's call it what it is. They committed genocide first, Rivera countered. And that justifies us doing the same. To beings who had nothing to do with the decision, Chen demanded. Most Quavexians probably don't even know humans exist. The argument exploded across the room. Morality versus vengeance. Justice versus retribution. I watched Admiral Okafor remain silent through it all, his eyes never leaving the simulation still playing on loop. We've received new orders, he finally said, silencing the room. The Security Council has voted, 7-3 in favor of deployment. More silence, heavier this time. Alternatives were considered, he continued, his voice steady but tight. Surgical strikes against Purifier strongholds. Targeted assassination of High Cleric Vexmoran. Conventional warfare. All rejected as insufficient. Captain Diallo finished for him. Or impossible given our capabilities. Nakamura added. The Quavexians outmatch us technologically in every category, except this one terrible weapon. I laughed again, that broken sound that wasn't really laughter. So we're not just going to murder billions to avenge thousands. We're doing it because it's convenient. Admiral Okafor looked at me directly. We're doing it because humanity cannot afford to appear vulnerable. The galaxy is watching, Commander. Other species are observing how we respond. If the price of human survival is Quovexian extinction, he didn't finish. We become the monsters. I said quietly. We survive, he corrected. The alternative is showing the cosmos that eliminating human colonies carries no consequence. Deployment is scheduled for 0600 tomorrow, Captain Diallo announced. The device will be placed by stealth shuttle while the Retribution creates a diversion. Any personnel with moral objections may register them officially without repercussion. Not a single hand went up. Not even mine. God help us all. Not even mine. Operation Pyrrhic Victory began at 0600 ship time. The Retribution emerged from the asteroid field on a direct course toward Quovexia Prime. Bold, obvious, suicidal. Every weapons system online broadcasting challenges on all frequencies. The perfect distraction. Meanwhile, a stealth shuttle carrying Major Kwan, Dr. Nakamura, and the Nova device slipped undetected toward the system's star, a yellow G-type main sequence. Not unlike our sun. Quovexian fleet responding. Rivera announced from tactical. 16 vessels breaking orbit. Weapons hot. Maintain course, Captain Diallo ordered. All power to forward shields. I monitored the shuttle's progress from my station, watching the tiny blip move ever closer to its target. The plan was elegantly simple. The shuttle would deploy the device in the star's upper corona, then retreat to minimum safe distance. We'd have approximately 20 minutes to clear the system before detonation. Shuttle reports approach vector locked. Communications reported. 5 minutes to deployment zone. On the main view screen, the Quovexian fleet spread into attack formation. Beautiful ships, I had to admit. Organic curves blending with crystalline structures in ways our engineers could only dream about. They're hailing us. Communications added. Ignore it. Diallo ordered. I laughed despite myself. What's the protocol here? Do we explain why we're about to erase their civilization, or just get on with it? No one answered. No one had to. Shuttle reports deployment zone reached. Communications announced. Preparing to release the device. Time seemed to stretch in that moment. I looked around the bridge, at faces set in grim determination, at hands steady on controls that would help facilitate the death of billions. I thought of New Horizon, of Marcus, of the message we were about to send to the cosmos. We are not to be trifled with. Device deployed, came the report. Shuttle beginning retreat. Quovexian vessels are accelerating. Rivera warned. They'll intercept the shuttle in 3 minutes. That's not enough time, I said, calculations racing through my mind. The shuttle needs to reach minimum safe distance in 5 minutes. Captain Diallo didn't hesitate. Move to intercept course. All weapons target lid Quovexian vessels. For 17 minutes the Retribution danced with death. We weren't built to win a conventional battle against one Quovexian warship, let alone 16. But we didn't need to win. We just needed to buy time. The shuttle reported safe distance achieved. The Retribution disengaged. Every system redlining as we pushed for escape velocity. I'll never forget the moment we cleared the predicted blast radius. The moment we turned sensors back toward the Quovexian star. The moment I realized the full horror of what we'd done. It began as a ripple. A wave of disturbance across the star's surface. Then brightening. Beautiful in its way. Like watching a flower bloom at impossible speed. Stellar mass decreasing rapidly. Science reported. Voice barely a whisper. Core collapse imminent. The star seemed to hesitate, pulsing erratically before suddenly shrinking to a fraction of its size. There was a heartbeat of darkness. Then light. Blinding. Terrible light. As the star detonated with the energy of billions of nuclear weapons, the sensors automatically dimmed to protect our eyes. But nothing could shield our consciences. The shockwave expanded outward, consuming planets like a hungry god. Quovexia Prime vanished in an instant. Billions of lives erased between one breath and the next. The orbital platforms, the massive fleet, the colony worlds, all gone. Where a thriving star system had existed moments before, there was now only an expanding cloud of superheated plasma and radiation. The birthplace of an entire civilization reduced to cosmic dust. It's done, Captain Diallo said, her voice hollow. And God help me. I wept. Not for the Corvexians, though perhaps they deserved my tears too. I wept for humanity, and what we had just become. That was 5 years ago now. 5 years since humanity declared itself with fire and extinction. The political fallout was exactly what Admiral Okafor predicted. Word spread quickly among spacefaring civilizations. Diplomatic channels that had been cool became suddenly warm. Trade agreements previously under review were rapidly approved. The 3 known aggressive species that had been probing our borders withdrew their scout ships. Humanity was feared. Mission accomplished. I resigned my commission 6 months after returning to Earth. Couldn't stomach the medals they tried to pin on us. The classified commendations for services rendered in defense of human interests. Rivera accepted his Major Kwan disappeared into some Black Ops division. Dr. Nakamura committed suicide 3 weeks after our return. Captain Diallo now serves as Fleet Admiral. She seems to sleep fine at night. I visit the New Horizon Memorial in Geneva once a year. It's a beautiful thing. 80,000 names etched in black marble, illuminated from within. At night it looks like stars against the void. Poetic, I suppose. Last time I went I found myself standing next to an elderly woman tracing a name with her fingertips. My granddaughter, she explained, catching me watching. She was a botanist. My friend Marcus was a microbiologist, I offered. He complained about the fungal samples. She laughed at that. Actually laughed. That sounds like scientists, always complaining about their work but loving it too much to stop. We stood in silence for a while, united in our grief. Then she asked the question I'd been dreading. Were you part of the response team? The ones who? She didn't finish. I nodded once. Good, she said firmly. They needed to learn. But what did they learn? What did we learn? That's the question that keeps me awake at night. The universe is vast and indifferent. Species rise and fall like waves on a cosmic shore. We humans, with our brief flicker of consciousness, decided our flicker was worth preserving at any cost. Maybe that's the real humanity. Fuck yeah moment. Not our capacity for vengeance, but our absolute, unswerving conviction that we matter, that our existence is non-negotiable. Somewhere in the ashes of the Corvexian system, I imagine there might be other survivors, ships that were far enough out to escape, colonies beyond the blast radius. I wonder what stories they tell their children about us now. Monster tales. Probably. The humans who killed a star. They wouldn't be wrong. The most frightening thing about crossing a line isn't that you can't go back. It's realizing you'd cross it again if you had to. And given the same circumstances, same threat to our survival, God help me, I think we would.